This is the weekly market update for the 8th of May 2013, and joining us over the phone is RP Data's Senior Research Analyst Cameron Cusher. Hi Cameron.
Hi, how are you?
Hi Cameron,
Good,
how are you going?
Well, thanks. How are all of you?
Yeah, great, thanks.
So Adelaide and Darwin were the only two capital cities where property values went up during April. Why did that happen when values around the rest of the country fell?
Look, it could be just a little bit of a seasonal volatility in the market. If you actually have a look so far this year, Adelaide's actually been one of the weaker housing markets with values up 2.4% so far this year. So I think it's just a bit of a seasonality coming into the market, but generally the trend has been that home values have been increasing across every capital city. As I said, Adelaide home values are up 2.4% so far this year, and across the combined capital cities the increase has been fairly similar. So more so just reflective of improving market conditions across the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So what's going on with auctions around the country?
Auction clearance rates so far this year have actually been quite strong. Last week the auction clearance rate was recorded at 64.5%, which was one of the highest auction clearance rates we've seen in about 3 years. So certainly the auction market is improving, and I guess that lends weight to the fact that overall we're seeing housing market conditions improving. In Adelaide specifically, we're seeing about a 50% auction clearance rate typically so far this year, which is slightly higher than last year, where auction clearance rates across the city were averaging about 40%. So again, even though the auction market in Adelaide is not as big as, say, a Melbourne or Sydney, there is evidence of a fairly significant improvement in clearance rates so far in 2013.
Yeah, we're finding that as well. Just over the weekend just past, we found that we had a great auction clearance rate. So I think we were, only the one was passed in, and so we had, a great weekend of auctions in North Adelaide and other areas of Adelaide. So we're definitely finding the same thing. So that's great news for our guys.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it's been a long time coming. Auction clearance rates have been fairly weak for most of the last 2 years, and there's definitely a pickup, and I guess that really highlights the improving conditions across the premium end of the housing market.
Yeah, sure. And we're finding, I think, as well that it's, people are electing to take auction now as well, more so than before. So it's sort of, I think it's all in line with a bit of a boost forward with auctions as a whole. So
it's good to see.
Yeah, and so I've just got a question now on the first homeowners, just in general with the market. I mean, that's something that interests me quite a bit. So how are you finding first homeowners in Adelaide, but also across the nation?
Well, generally there's been a bit of a pullback in first home buyer demand, and the latest housing finance statistics for February showed that first home buyers are about 14.5% of all owner-occupier finance commitments over the month. So that's fairly low. Typically first home buyers sit at about 18 to 20%.
Right, okay.
Some of that at a national level is due to some changes in state government policies, whereby in New South Wales and Queensland you can only get the first homeowners grant for buying brand new homes.
Right.
And I don't necessarily think that a lot of first home buyers want brand new homes. So I think that's potentially a policy challenge coming up in the next few months as to is there a bit of a standoff there and what would happen if first home buyers continue to remain out of the market. In South Australia, it's about 18% of finance commitments to owner-occupiers are first home buyers, so certainly the slump hasn't been as significant in Adelaide, but still not as strong as we've seen in the recent past.
Yeah, sure. And I think as well, people are, that are out there looking for a home, they're looking where they can add value as well. So whether it's buying on a bigger block and being able, an older house and being able to renovate that, or looking to add value rather than maybe the, new builds, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in a lot of instances as well, obviously much of the new building is going on in the outskirts of the city, and first-time buyers don't necessarily want to live right out on the outskirts of the city. They'd rather buy something that, as you said, is a little bit run down and they can do their own touches to a bit closer into the city centre.
Yeah, and you mentioned it just before when we were talking about auctions, but how are you finding the premium end of the market, I guess, in Adelaide as well as across the country?
Yeah, the premium end of the market has shown a bit of an improvement. It's certainly the middle sector of the market that's moving the strongest, with values up 1.9% over the last year. But the premium end of the market's starting to see some value growth, up 0.8%. over the last 12 months, and specifically in Adelaide, the premium end of the market's actually been the strongest sector. It's with values up 1.5% over the last year, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. Obviously, the lower interest rates are helping encourage that market, but also relative to say, a Sydney, Melbourne or Perth, the premium market in Adelaide is at a much lower price point. And that's where we're seeing the strength at the moment. It's a similar case in Brisbane as well. Whereas in both Adelaide and Brisbane, it's been the lower end of the market which has been feeling the most amount of pain and showing the weakest market conditions over the last year.
Yeah, I think that's what our guys are finding as well, particularly with our focus on the premium end and the beautiful homes. So I think that's the guys are seeing that there's a lot of stock coming on, and they're really enjoying it, I think. So, and just before you go, one last question: what can we expect from the property market in the next year or so?
I think what we've seen over the first quarter of the year is fairly strong conditions. We saw values increase 2.8% over the first 3 months at a national level, and in Adelaide they were up about 0.8%. Adelaide's a little bit different to most other capital cities, and I'd expect the strongest time for the Adelaide housing market will be spring. Whereas in most other capital cities, it's typically the first quarter of the year that's strongest. So I think we'll continue to see values grow. So far this year, values in Adelaide are up by 2.4%. I don't necessarily think that level of growth will be maintained, but I'm probably on track for somewhere between 3 and 5% growth in values throughout this year.
That wraps up this week's market update.